They call me.
I'm good
Yes.
now, record us.
Oh, good. So let's call the meeting in order at 7 p.m. on this day. And so when I keep looking up, I'm looking at my old computer that has the call to order and roll call. Chad will take care of the road call. So we have approval of minutes on the March 13th Conservation Commission minutes on easement monitoring.
I don't believe you had a quorum, so I think it's just noted for the record.
Okay, then if I can get away with that, so noted. Is it the same thing for the next one?
No, you had a quorum on that.
Those are the regular minutes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So do we have any comments then on the minutes of March 16th meeting? And
so I have no comments on the March 16th meeting, but while I was doing roll call, on the March 13th conservation easement monitoring special meeting notes, it says that I was present and I was not. So can we just make sure the attendance is correct for who was there and who wasn't?
Yes, I will correct that. Yep.
Thanks.
Oh, wait.
okay, and then back to our last meeting minutes.
Absent, it says C. Rittenhouse. No?
So the
call to
header
order.
at the top
Yeah.
says who's present and absent, but then the
Yes,
text
okay.
below just
Yeah,
needs
I'll
to be
correct
in
that.
alignment.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. And if there are no comments on the March 16th meeting minutes, any motion to approve them? Thank you, Meg Harper moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Miranda, seconded it. All those in favor, I guess, raise your hand, say aye or something of the sort.
Aye. Aye.
That's taken care of. It passed unanimously. I guess unless one of you want to comment on the public, we will skip 3. Old business on 4A. What have you got to say on that, Jennifer? Conservation easement monitoring.
Conservation easement monitoring. I did go ahead and send out the mailing to folks over at it's 6 property owners, and it's Wynwood Estates. And I'll go ahead and send you all the landowner letter as well as the map and the terms of the easement. But that is scheduled for May 1st at 9:30. So fingers crossed. We don't have a rain date, so fingers crossed on the weather.
Okay, and then we move on to new business, the EIE Mirror Lake improvements, which is a very similar proposal to that which we had under a very forgettable Yukon president, what, 10 years ago or so? This was supposed to have been started under President Hogan.
Oh.
And it needs to be done. I actually spoke with one Yukon person who paid absolutely no attention to me. If you look at the old pictures of the last time they cleaned it out, they had a drag line in there so they could just dump the muck around the lake. Excuse me, this time they are going to basically suck the muck out into huge nylon stockings to drain the water out of it. I'm not sure where they go with that fill afterwards, but probably has to be treated as the possibility of having toxic material in it.
Do we know where or when and how long it would take? So when they would be expecting to do it, for how?
I mean, they've got it. I think they're hoping to do it in 23, right?
Yeah, 23, and I think they started It's in the paperwork somewhere.
Yeah, I was looking through it for dates and I must have missed it, but it was unclear to me how long of a process the whole thing is going to be as well, and how long that disruption to the system there is going to
My
last.
feeling is 2 or 3 months, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it says planned start of construction winter 2022 or to spring 2023. I don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah, because I guess my one thought was one of my thoughts was trying to time it so it wasn't quite so bad for the pond. But I mean, I agree, it's in such bad shape that it needs it.
The only thing, because one thing to think about would be encouraging. So per this process, the Conservation Commission will send comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Town Council. And then how it works is the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council draft a joint letter. So, any things that you want to raise, I mean, perhaps you want to just, ensure that the material that they're dredging is tested and treated and disposed of appropriately. Another thing I thought of was making sure that folks in the watershed know about this, so that they, if they start to see some extra sedimentation in Roberts Brook and they're in and about there, they're aware of that. And then encouraging proper erosion and sedimentation controls. But, unfortunately, we don't have full site plans because that's just the nature of an EIE. So I think that will be up to DEEP to make sure of that when they go through some sort of wetland permitting, I guess.
Jennifer and I were speaking a little bit before the meeting. And among the downstream people who should be notified are the Corps of Engineers and the Mansfield Dam Group. UConn has been negligent in informing them in the past. So
I do have one comment that I'd like to add. Can I do that?
I guess so, John. Of course.
I'm speaking to you remotely from some remote island off the coast of Georgia. But anyways, they don't mention anything about the species they're going to be planting in there, particularly wetland species. And there's a number of invasive species, or not necessarily on the invasive species list for Connecticut, but acknowledged to be invasive species. They should, and there's no species list associated with what they're going to be planting in this area. They should make sure that whatever species they're planting in the wetland or in the lake itself, because there's a number of aquatic species that are notorious invasive species, should be native and should be, where possible, native, and should be not listed by anyone in the region as being invasive. So, I'm just getting, feeds lately about calorie pear, which is a common, and it's not listed in Connecticut, but it's, spreading all over the place as a typical urban species that's easy to take care of. But, there's a number of, I know that right now there are some invasive species surrounding the lake, and that is there's the yellow iris, which is an invasive species, which is already in the perimeter of the lake. So I want to make sure that they take precautions on that, particularly since they don't even mention anything about what they're going to plant in there.
Good point.
Very good point. Do we have further comments on this rather major project?
No, my other question was going to be if there was a list, because I hadn't been able to find it. So that answers my question.
I would like to know how the dewatering, well, I know how it does, because I actually worked on a project like this on Cape Cod, in which they basically sucked out all the sediment of a pond instead of actually dredging it. and then put it into basically the burlap bags, and then piled them up to dewater and just let the water leach out. It was a mess, it really was a mess. And their idea for their reuse of sediments was to actually spread the soil after and make a perched wetland. But they didn't have a contaminated soil issue. But it's messy. You go and slice the bags open after, and I'm thinking about that on the Great Lawn. And I wonder, pretty close to 195, how will they actually really do that in a controlled manner?
I'm not sure how they do that. Because we tried that at Bicentennial Pond a little bit, and that's such a remote area. But yeah.
But on 195, yeah.
I know it's completely different.
And how long does it take for the soil to dry out? I mean, are we
Depends on the
talking
soil.
Depends on the material,
days,
on the
months?
soil, and the weather, and how I would think the organic content and all of that. I think it really depends. And then what do they do? It doesn't, those burlap bags don't collect all of the sediment, I don't think. So how do they treat, because I think generally they just put it in like a storm drain or something, but I mean, we can't get into the weeds because we don't have any weeds to get into. We don't have full site plans, but I think just make a general comment if that's something that folks are concerned with.
So was there any erosion or sedimentation control measures
Well, we don't have
proposed
their,
within the proposed dewatering areas? They didn't speak to anything like that, right?
No.
the
don't think
plans are
so.
very high level, so I don't know that they speak to that. And even if you read the full EIE, they're pretty high level as well.
Yeah.
So I think that will be done, when they do up construction drawings. I mean, I would think they would be looking at that because there's going to be a lot of eyes on that property.
Mhm. Are we making a motion here, or we're not approving anything? We're just making recommendations?
I think the appropriate way to do it would be to draft some recommendations and make a motion to forward them to the Planning and Zoning Commission for inclusion in their letter to UConn.
Okay, Chad, do you have a good feeling for these recommendations yet?
I've got 3 bullet points. It's just the front language to make sure that we're, if we're going to do a motion to approve recommendations, is that what you're suggesting, Jennifer?
Yes.
So motion to approve recommendations, and who do they go to?
PZC and Town Council.
And with the Conservation Commission, the chair can make motions. So I move that our recommendations be sent to PZC and the Town Council. If we can have a second, then we can discuss it further and perhaps add more things to Chad's list.
Second.
Can you remind me, Chad, what we have for your 3 bullets right now?
Yeah, I can share the screen quick if I can figure it out. So give me a second here. Here it is. Get too many screens open. So are you seeing a motion here with 3 bullets?
No.
We're seeing the
No.
minutes from March 16th.
I shared the wrong screen. I will fix that. Give me a second. How do I, there it is. Oh my goodness. How do I can't access my unsharing. Well, this is going to be fun, folks. You're stuck viewing something you don't want to view.
Wonder if I can do advanced sharing of it.
Here, I found it. Stop share. It went to my other monitor.
Oh.
So I'm going to close the minutes I don't want you to see, so I don't make that mistake again. The longest part of the meeting is the secretary pulling up the motion.
Do you see anyone else volunteering for this?
Yeah, no.
Now
There
let
we
me
go.
see. Castle moved. Davis seconded, and we should note that Davis is seated for one of our absent committee members, so she's voting privileges today. And then I'm going to delete this for a second because that's holdover from previous.
My only suggestion under number 2 is to put in elsewhere in New England after invasive. I only say that because the Connecticut species listed as invasive is extremely restrictive relative to our neighboring states.
You also missed one. You listed one in addition to yellow iris, Carolee pear, something like that.
Calorie pair.
Calorie pear, yeah. Might as
Right.
well highlight it since it's one we know is of concern.
PEAR. It's like Wordle here, 4-letter Wordle. Pair, pair, and pair. I think I got the right one now.
It's not calorie, it's calorie. I'm a terrible speller, but it's CALLARY, I think, but I'm not sure.
I can Google it and make sure it's correct.
I just Googled it. CALLERY.
Thank you.
These 2 items you have on the top of the page, what
Oh.
measurements will be taken, they should come down into your bullet section, shouldn't they?
Yeah, those were my notes to myself. And then this is a typo, I think. Under site contamination, they list all of the things that are of known record to have occurred within the area. And one of the bullet points under what they call major, which is more than 10 gallons, it says less than 1 gallon of petroleum released over a half-mile area.
And this is over what, 40 years?
Something like that.
So I do remember during the previous proposal to do this, they did do some assessment of the sediments, and there was some contaminants in there that were of concern that we expressed at the time. So I don't know whether they actually know and have gone back to what was listed as known contaminants several years ago during the Hogan time.
I assume that the soils will be tested. They won't just be presumed to be harmless.
Exactly.
I think that you want to make sure that that you could say something about that in.
Recommend that they do.
In order for them to dispose of that, like I think it's generally if this stuff does not have major contaminants, it's very very fertile stuff. But if anyone's going to take it, it's going to have to be tested.
Well, last time I know that part of the reason that they didn't go through with it is that they had to carry a significant amount of this out to toxic waste dumps.
Yeah.
As a result of what was in the tested sediments.
So meaning that's why it didn't get done, or
That was partly why it didn't get done, because it had
the
added like a
expense?
couple of $1 million extra to what needed to be done.
Yeah. I would think when you're handling that much stormwater in an area that is basically our urban area, there would be some issues with the.
Do you think the fourth bullet should say test soils proposed to be removed? They should be testing it before they remove it. For fifth bullet, I'm sorry.
I don't know when the testing would occur, but you're
Well-
suggesting
Well-
prior to removal?
Yeah, but if they did it before and found that they were contaminated, so they aborted the mission of removing that, then maybe why can't they do it again?
You could add in there, given the previous proposal did
Ooh.
note that there were contaminated sediments.
Are we sure of that? Like, can we have a citation for that? Because
I would have, we would have to go back and look at the notes, but I'm sure that came up.
okay,
Well, they can't have magically gone away, so they must still be there.
I don't know if anyone else recalls that, or whether Quentin, who was there at the time, remembers that.
I I don't remember at this point. But you know, it's just. I hope you can't hear the noise that I just heard. I've got red squirrels in the attic right above me. Any suggestions on getting rid of red squirrels in a conservative commission way?
Find a mink?
I actually saw one yesterday, but not near my attic.
Saw one under my shed 2 days ago, but I want to keep them.
So you could modify that after noted in sediment of some contaminated sediments as opposed to, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, because let's say the soils are contaminated and then they're going to dredge them and put them in the bags and put them on the Great Lawn. I mean, it could all be leaking out onto the Great Lawn, which by the way should be restored after grass-wise.
Do we have any other bullets to add?
well, yeah. I'm wondering if you just want to say, ensure that soils are tested and for appropriate contaminants and disposed of appropriately? Or do you feel like you need the given the previous proposal?
Take this out since we're not
I mean,
positive nor
that's-
providing
this
reference
is
information.
These are your minutes, not mine. So you do what you feel like you need to.
John, how certain are you? I'm kind of with
I'm
Jen
pre-
that if we don't know for sure and can't point to minutes or a previous report, that
It would require some research to look through that. I don't know how well indexed these are, but there should be some mention. In other words, we have to go back and find out when Hogan was here, go back a year or two, and then go into the conservation minutes at that time that mentioned Mirror Lake. And I remember distinctly that there were reports that before they did this, they did some tests of
I
the
think he'd
sediment
not,
and
he
found,
wouldn't want to go to the Conservation Commission minutes. I think he'd want to go to the report that showed the contaminants.
right, so it would be in the Conservation Commission packets
The
that we got
packet.
at that time.
Yeah, I don't think we weren't posting those packets online, so that would be hard to, it would have to be, we'd have to go through back to their EIEs. Or this, a notice of scoping.
I'm gonna say that I don't
Oh.
have time to chase that down.
Nope, I don't think we do.
No, and why don't we just make reference to the earlier proposal under President Hogan for removing the sediment and ask that the PZC refer to our notes from then.
Is Hogan spelled correctly? That's before my
I
time
think
at
I
UConn.
think so.
Yep.
After he left us, he was fired by the University of Illinois.
It was. We've had a few people move up and then back down suddenly. Chancellor Peterson being one of those.
He was fired from the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
God.
Good track record going here.
Yeah, where do we find these people?
I had,
It's called the Peter Principle, I believe, is it not?
Oh,
I,
you're right.
I was president of the union for part of Peterson's time, and he was a dreadful person.
Mm.
We probably shouldn't mention this since it's all being recorded.
Whoops.
He's long gone.
Right, do we have everything for the motion here, folks?
If there are no other things to add, then would somebody like to? Oh, it's Kessel moved and Davis seconded. So any other things before we vote?
I think so.
All those in favor wave their hands or signify somehow that they're in favor. John, did you vote on this?
I'm, yeah, I'm voting? Yes, I'm in favor.
Yeah, okay. So the motion passed unanimously. And the next thing on the agenda. I'm not used to working with two computers. My new one is great. My new one is great. The old one is as slow as it ever was.
Reports from members.
Oh yeah, reports from members, and then the any members wish to make a report. And then under communications.
I included the letter that was sent to UConn regarding the scoping for Mansfield Apartments redevelopment, and then my monthly business report. And I have another communication. It's not on the agenda.
You do.
Yeah, I wanted to let you know that last week we learned that Linda Painter is going to be moving on to another position in North Carolina. She's going to be, it's a great opportunity for her, and she'll be closer to her family. So she's going to be leaving the town in early June.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Too bad. She is hardworking and talented.
Yeah, she's going to be missed.
Have they begun a search for her replacement yet?
No, nope. They're still waiting. There'll be an interim, and then they'll do a search.
Dare we ask who the interim is likely to be?
They haven't let us know yet.
Okay, are there any other things to be brought before this august body this evening?
That's it. Oh, one other thing. Your May meeting, you will need to give comment on 106 Stores Road, which is it's the redevelopment of the Champagne Motors. And they're reducing the footprint of the Champagne Motors building and then adding four retail restaurants with a limited service drive-through and a regular drive-through. So you'll need to provide comment. We do have our independent peer review consultants, and so I'm not sure that we're going to have their comments back in time. So we may need a special meeting instead, in lieu of your regular meeting in May. So it may be like the week after.
Thank you, Jennifer. We're all forewarned. Anything else? Who wants to move for adjournment?
I'll move.
Okay, I'll second it. I think we're done.
Congratulations on the shortest meeting we have ever had.
I know, I'm looking at it, 32 minutes.
Great. We will see you all. Sorry.
I was going to say, I hope that's a compliment.
It is a compliment for me. Yes.
Okay.
Have a good, we'll see you in May.
Yes,
I
and
cannot
once
believe
again,
how big your baby is getting, Miranda.